Hey guys, and welcome back. If you're new to the channel, I love making monsters, aliens, and everything in between. I've been working on a lot of Star Wars concepts lately, so for today's project, I'll be making a custom BB-8 diorama. With that in mind, let's get started. Now, the best thing about these Bandai snap kits is that you don't actually need any adhesive to stick them together. I just followed the instructions for this one, starting with the head, and clipped each model piece into place. After that, once the head was relatively assembled, I found the pieces for his eyes and attached those into the socket. Now that this model is starting to look like BB-8, I inserted the antennas into place and moved on to making the main sphere for the body. This process was relatively straightforward, but there is a core component here that holds all the parts of the base together, so I had to find all 6 dome shapes and their matching details to form BB-8's lower half. After that, I found the remaining pieces of the outer shell and snapped those into place. Now, there were still a few smaller details that I had to put together, but once all of them were completed, I made sure to attach the head onto the body. And now that BB-8 is fully ready for action, it's time to start building the diorama. I want this planet to be a desert environment, so to make that happen, I found a wooden tray for the base itself and flipped it upside down so I can start building on top. First off, I'm going to start by making some miniature rocks. Luckily, I have a model railroad kit laying around, and this rubber mold is going to work perfectly. But instead of using plaster, I flattened out some Sculpey and started pressing it into the mold to imprint all those textures. I made a bunch of rock formations as well in different sizes and one giant boulder to give the diorama some extra height. Next, I turned on the oven and baked all the Sculpey for 35 minutes. Once it was cool enough to touch, I took some craft glue and anchored those down onto the base. With all the rocks in the right place, I still had to figure out a way to get BB-8 to stand up straight on his own without rolling over. The model kit actually comes with a clear support base, but I decided against using that, and I'm gonna make something custom. Instead, I want it to look like BB-8 is actually rolling through the sand and create a bit of a trail behind him. To make that happen, I started by cutting the shape of the sand trail out of craft foam and layered that down onto another piece of Sculpey. I made sure to mold the Sculpey itself around the shape of BB-8 so he fits on top of it perfectly without having to use any glue. Now, I also rolled up some extra chunks of Sculpey, and once they were fully cooked, I took some wire cutters and broke them up into even smaller pieces. Sculpey tends to break in the exact same striations that a natural rock would have, so it's a quick and easy way to make extra debris. Once those were all glued into place, I applied some drywall plaster to fill in the gaps and blend all the elements together. With the shape of the terrain fully complete, finally, now it's time to start painting. I began with the base using a black matte acrylic paint, and after that was dry, I made sure to mask off all the edges. However, when it comes to getting a perfect masking line, I always try to paint on one extra layer of the same color over top of the masking tape. That way, none of the other colors can bleed through, and it gives you a much better finish once you remove the tape later on. From there, I applied a light brown base coat all over the surface. I made sure to add in some other earthy colors with a bit of darker brown, and also mixed in a bit of red for some extra variation. After that, I watered down some black acrylic paint and applied a thin wash layer to the recessed areas. I also made sure to go back in and dry brush some highlights to bring out all the details. Once all that paint had time to dry, I also watered down some white glue and applied that to the entire surface. Next, I started adding in some grains of sand onto the base and locked everything into place with some additional spray-on glue. Keep in mind, the colors of the sand look way darker when it's wet and will naturally dry a lot lighter. I also found some incredibly fine-grained sand and started to sprinkle that over top of the larger particles. I still want BB-8's trail in the sand to stand out a little bit more, so I applied a different shade of sand along the line just for some extra contrast. I waited a couple hours, and once everything was dry, I carefully removed the masking tape and touched up a few spots with a bit more paint. After all of that, I'm really happy with the way this has all turned out, but there is still one thing missing, and that is of course BB-8. So naturally, I put him down into the right position, and finally, this BB-8 desert diorama is complete. All that's left to do is sit back and enjoy the final result.